ref. That she got the ball. Yes, good afternoon, Spurs fans. Welcome back to the channel with your boys Dave, Jack, Dermot, Soren, and Martin will be jumping on at some point as well as we build up to what is a season-defining game in the Champions League for Tottenham Hotspur tonight. A point might be enough. A win will certainly secure our way into the next round, with avoiding that qualification round, which will be lumped in among some of the big fixtures we've got in February. So it's absolutely crucial we get the job done tonight. However, we do have another injury-ravaged squad, more injuries to add to the list. Romero, Porro, also out. So we are up against it. But hopefully we still have enough to be able to get the job done tonight. Before we get on to the panel, let's welcome some people in at home and let's see what they're having to say ahead of kickoff tonight. William Webb says, 3am, bring on a win today. We need the positivity. Well, William Webb, we are a different team in Europe than what we are in the domestic campaign. That's why I'm a bit more chirpier today. Some would almost call me chirpy. We've also got Roser THFC 2025. Well, lads, I was at the game last weekend against Dortmund. It was a great game to have been at. I thought there was more to get in this without Van de Ven. Lineup is going to be very interesting tonight. Come on, you Spurs. To be honest with you, I think the lineup more or less picks itself tonight, my man. I think there might be a small debate whether, how fit is Paulini and Papma Sarr for this game. If they are, maybe they change things a little bit in midfield for us. But apart from that, the back line and the forward line actually more or less picks itself tonight. But hopefully you enjoyed the game. Yeah, you're one of the lucky ones that decided to go despite, the turmoil at Tottenham Hotspur, and you got rewarded that, my man. Good to see you in the building. We've also got Logan THFC. Good evening, fellas. Big up as always. I'm fired up for tonight's game. Come on, you Spurs. Don't let us down. Good to see you, Logan. Hopefully you're keeping well. Is that your dog, by the way? I need to know that, by the way. And he also sent in a super sticker, Jacko.
It's another diamond. Thank you very much, Logan. Been very generous and very consistently in here, so do appreciate you, man. We got another big night in Frankfurt ahead of us.
Big up, Logan. A massive night tonight, Champions League night. I love European football. That's why I'm still hoping somehow we can try and salvage out of this season. It doesn't look likely, but it would be nice. We've got AK Shegs in the house wearing my green Solanke kit for the last season, from last season today. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, AK Shegs. Channeling a positive energy. Hopefully he scores today, my man, because we definitely need him. Dropkick, your teacher says you're late. I would argue it's probably on time for me, to be brutally honest with you, or early for me, to be brutally honest with you, Dropkick, your teacher. But, of course, apologies, my man. We've also got Iceman in the building. Big up Rick says, big up Dave and Jack. Also, everyone in the chat. Today is the start of our 5-game winning streak. Frankfurt today. Absolutely love it. Love the positivities, my man. Good to see you in the building. We've also got Ian Ferguson in the building. Hopefully you're keeping well. Maybe still on the snow there. Let us know, Ian Ferguson. We've also got Shem Tam in the house. Hey, Jack, Dave, Mr. Dermot, Mr. Soren. Hope all are well today. Anyone get injured getting off the plane in Frankfurt? Well, Luca Williams Barnett didn't travel either. He picked up an injury as well. So he didn't travel either. He was due to travel with the squad. So that's another injury update for you, my man. We've also got Rabbi Jokinen in the house. Norwegian media says Oscar Bob is on the way to Fulham for around £30 million. Would you take him? We need someone in. To be honest with you, you've already got likes of Wilson, Odegaard, Tell, and I think bringing in Oscar Bob is maybe adding to that problem to a certain degree on that one, Rabbi. Raheem Sterling is free, though. Chelsea have released him this afternoon. Let me know if anyone would take him in the comments. Logan says, it is my doggo, Dave. Yeah, Fox Red Lab. He's a little beauty. He is, my man. He'd probably pull more birds than me, that dog, to be brutally honest with you, my man. And then we've also got Jen Ed in the house says, Jack, Seahawks winning the Super Bowl at least.
Well, I'm trying to become a Seahawks fan again. I retired from being a Seahawks fan close to like 10 years ago, to be honest. And it is good, though, to see this year in particular, seeing Seattle win so many, or at least do so well in sports. It's been a long time. G&D. It's been nice, actually. It's been nice.
Ian Ferguson is back in the office. We've also got Delboy, big up Dave, Jack, Soren, and Dermo. Come on, you Spurs. And Roser THFC 2025. Really appreciate the support, my man. He's sending a super sticker. What are we getting, Jacko?
Keeping the diamonds coming. Thank you, Roser. Oh. Dave and I are going to be all kitted out with these diamonds. Thank you so much, Roser.
Big up, Roser. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. Really appreciate the support. He says 2 games this season, Villarreal and Dortmund. So you've been going to Champions League games. Probably continue that trend. Keep going to European games. Maybe you're one of our lucky ones. We are better in Europe than what we are in the Premier League. We'll actually kick this one off with Soren today, and I want to come back to Jack with maybe a different set of questions. Soren, attention turns back to Champions League tonight as Spurs travel to Frankfurt with a top 8 finish on the line. How are you feeling heading into this one? Confident given Spurs' European form, or nervous because of everything we've seen domestically?
I've said it last season, I've said it this season. When it comes to European nights, I have a real calmness, and I don't know. I'm not. I am saying we're going to win it. What's the problem? No, I feel confident for tonight. I think it'll be tight. I don't think it's going to be a big scoreline, but I do think we'll come away with the points we need, and hopefully, not too bad a performance. Whether we defend and try and break, I don't know, but tonight, I just think it's a whole different ball game for some reason in Europe. We just seem more together. It just seems to suit the way we're going to play, the way we played last season, and we've done well. We always seem to do quite well. So yeah, I see a tonight. I really do.
Oh, absolutely love that. And I agree with you. We are a bit of a different team in Europe. I think there's more than enough within the squad out there tonight, to try to be able to get the job done, at least get something away from home here tonight. Does Europe now feel like an escape for this group? Sorry, maybe is that what you're alluding to? That maybe, there's less pressure on them going into Europe, maybe less expectations?
I don't know if it's less expectations. And look, I'm not here to bash crowds and fans or anything like that tonight, but whether it's a different set of fans when we play at home, obviously there's a lot of fans will go, but don't know. There just always seems a different atmosphere when it's a European night at the. I keep wanting to say the Lane because that's how it used to be, but it just feels different, and it just feels like. Obviously, the Premiership's our bread and butter, and that's where things are going wrong. And I don't know if it's just a case of the fans have a little bit more belief when we're in Europe. The team has more belief, and I just don't know what it is. But look, I sat here last week and got ridiculed saying we were going to win, and we were going up against the Dortmund team that should have been spanking us 6, 7, 8-0. And we stuck to our guns and said we'd win it. Tonight we're up against a team that I think they've conceded the most goals. So, they've not got a great, saying that it probably jinxes now, but we should be scoring against them tonight. We should be scoring against them. And I know we've got an injury-ravaged squad, and I know that, things are going to be hard, but we have the players to go out there and score and bring them 3 points back and make sure we qualify.
They have conceded 42 goals so far this season. Yes. They are leaking goals left, right, and centre. So are you expecting a reaction from the disappointing 2-2 draw with Burnley at the weekend? Or do you fear more inconsistency tonight? Do you think it's going to be sort of a performance like we've seen against Dortmund where we were in control for the whole game? Do you think it's going to be scrappy?
It's funny because my to-be son-in-law is a Liverpool fan. And we were talking about Burnley because obviously they went and drew against Liverpool, and we were both sat there, saying, is it a good result? Is it a bad result? And as much as we needed the 3 points and as much as I think we should have won it, I also don't think the way we've been playing and the confidence, it was a terrible result. It could have been worse. We could have lost it. We could have won it. And a draw is certainly better than losing it. I'm not saying that I was happy with a draw, but I'd rather take a draw than a loss. And it's just another game that we didn't lose. That's 2 in a row that we haven't lost. And hopefully tonight we'll make it 3. And then against City, it'll be 4. So, the roll starts going.
Absolutely shameless, you are. Absolutely shameless. That result on the weekend was not a good result whatsoever.
Look,
we could have easily lost.
Burnley are not the shit team. Obviously, you look at the league and things like that. I get it, but they're a dogged team. They're not. You're talking a Liverpool team that are in what 4th, 5th at the moment. Well, they couldn't beat them neither. So, why all of a sudden are we expected to be able to roll a team over like that when Liverpool can't? And look, I know Liverpool aren't playing well, but neither are we. So anything, yes, it was a bad result. We should have won, but it wasn't a disastrous result because we didn't lose. That, had we lost, then it's worse. But look, I'm picking any positives I can out of it rather than looking at the negatives. So a point is better than no points. That's the way I'm trying to bring it. But somebody will disagree with me.
No, I see your logic. I see your logic. If you, in the context that we are a terrible team, us picking up a point against another terrible team isn't the worst thing in the world, I guess is what you've been saying. And Liverpool kind of the same. Like Liverpool haven't won a game, I think, they haven't won a Premier League game in like 5 or 6 games or something like that. So with that context in mind, I guess a draw is
Liverpool are still a better team than Tottenham at the moment.
Yeah. But they,
when you've got a team like Liverpool who, let's not pretend, they won the league last year. They are reigning Premiership champions. And yes, it's maybe a slightly different squad, but they're certainly on paper a better team than we are, and they couldn't beat them. And didn't City draw against Burnley as well?
No, United.
Oh, United, sorry, yeah. So, United are flying at the moment. They're a fantastic team.
I do understand what you're saying, but I think when you put it into context of looking at the fixtures that we've got coming up in February, it was almost like we needed to win that. And I think that's where, people look at it and go, it's not a great result. We could have done with that win just to give us a bit of extra security heading into the month of February. But I do understand where you're coming from. And what would you say to Leighton Evelyn here, Soren, before we get Jackie involved? He says, sorry, but I just don't trust this team to get a result tonight.
Oh, can 100% see where he's coming from, but obviously my thoughts are we're going to do it. And but I do, it's one of those where last week we were expected to get thrashed and we go and win. This week we're expected, in theory, to go and win. We'll probably lose, but I understand the thought process behind when fans are coming out with that sort of statement. It's, you don't trust them. That's the problem. And this is what we were talking about on Sunday, that when you come up against a team that in the supporters' minds and, probably in the players, that you should be going out to win, they're not motivating. But I just think in Europe, it's a slightly different scenario. And I hope we do it tonight. And I do think, personally, it will be a win. And I do think we'll qualify. And then we need to really knuckle down for the Premiership over the next 4 or 5 games and get 12 points at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, just for yourself out there, Leighton, Spurs sit 14th in the Premier League table, but in contrast, we sit 5th in the Champions League table. I mean, you couldn't write it up. If that's not Spurs, I don't know what is. So we're not bad in Europe, I guess, is what I'm trying to say to you ahead of tonight's game. Jack, Frankfurt sit 33rd in the Champions League table and cannot progress. Frankfurt have also sacked their manager and playing under caretaker Dennis Schmidt. Is this the perfect opponent or the most dangerous kind?
Everything points towards it being the most ideal kind of opponent, but knowing Spurs, it's almost like Dinamo Zagreb situation. I have a sneaky feeling of that, right? Yeah. Where it's like manager in jail. They have, I'm pretty sure, Dinamo Zagreb as well. They kind of, at least they felt like they were out of it. Like it was, no one really expected them to make a comeback. They didn't really have much to play for. And it feels kind of similar with Frankfurt, where there's really no pressure on them to win this game or anything like that. If anything, they're probably just going to try to put in a performance, you would think, for vengeance and for revenge against what we did to them last season away from home. But I don't want to try to doctor Tottenham this in any way. I just say you have to get the job done tonight. I think this is the most ideal time to be playing Frankfurt. No manager. Season's practically over for them. They should be probably focusing on the Bundesliga anyways. And this is just their last game in Europe that, you could say kind of end strongly. But I mean, I really doubt that even the fans that much care about, ending the season strongly in the Champions League when there's nothing to play for. They probably care more about finishing strongly domestically. And they've just been bad. They've been a bad team. They've had all their good players taken away from them. They're conceding goals left and right. They're a basket case right now. I think we should be taking advantage of that, to be perfectly honest.
And to add to that as well, Jack, like even if, say, a worst case scenario, we do find ourselves 1 down, I hope the heads don't drop tonight, because
No.
they end up conceding 3 in the second half at the weekend. So they are a team that sort of do concede a lot of goals. And, you'd argue their mentality is probably just as shaky, if not worse than ours, to your point. So, there's uh, they have nothing to play for. There's no reason why we should be slipping up here tonight. There's no reason why Dr. Tottenham should be rocking up tonight. I think if we don't get what we need out of this tonight, I think it just comes down to poor attitude.
Seriously, yeah.
And that on the evening, to be brutally honest with you. I mean, you couldn't have asked for, Frankfurt to be in a worse situation heading into this last game. And I just hope the players realize, that the fixtures were kind to us in this Champions League group phase in terms of the way they panned out and stuff. And now it's time to finish off the job and get inside the top 8, like many Spurs fans predicted at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Did nothing to play for teams like Frankfurt today, though, Jack, actually play with a bit more freedom? And is that maybe where the danger comes from tonight, that it's not going to be structured?
I would say when it comes to us, we're one of those teams. When we have no pressure, we seem to play some of our best ever football. When we kind of have a free hit scenario, we play some amazing stuff at times. And then when there is pressure on us, we tend to crumble, we tend to crack. I don't know if that's the case with Frankfurt, to be perfectly honest. I think they've actually, if anything, performed very well in the past when they were under pressure, right? They were also former Europa League champions under Oliver Glasner, and they went into a lot of really good and important pressure-full games. They knocked out Barcelona. They knocked out some other very good sides in the Europa League, and they were under massive pressure that season to achieve something, because I think actually domestically they weren't doing too well. So it was kind of like us, where their whole hopes and dreams kind of clinged on to doing well in the European competition. I'm not sure if they're a team like us that when it's a free hit, when there's no pressure at all, they just play this amazing stuff. And that's probably down to the fact that they don't really have that many great players anymore. Like, they've lost some of their best players. They lost Marmoush. They lost Hugo Ekitike. Think about that goal that Ekitike scored against us at home last season. It was an incredible goal, right? Because we were on top of them, and then they just pumped it long to him. He took a past Porro, took past another player, and just banged one in from 30 yards. So they don't have players like that anymore in their team, really. I think they're actually a pretty weak side for the most part. And I don't know if they've even added any real significant talent to their team. They're in a huge rebuilding phase. Like I said, they've lost their manager, who is quite good for them, Dino Topmuller. And I think they're probably just, if anything, they're probably hoping they finish strong, just with a win, but it's not an excuse for us, to be honest. I think they're a very, very, very beatable team.
And I just hopefully the squad and Thomas Frank realize tonight that it's important we get out inside the top 8 tonight, regardless if they've got nothing to lose. And, they might be up for it, last Champions League game, home crowd and stuff like that, want to give them something to cheer about. We have to win and get outside in the top 8 tonight. With the injuries we're carrying and the games we've got coming up, the last thing we need is these playoff games in amongst the Premier League, because then you're in a position where you need to pick, you need to prioritize. And we don't want to be in that, by getting us into the knockout stages at the first time of asking without the playoff round, gives us a chance to get players back. So, it's important that we get the job done in that aspect tonight. Last question for you, Jacko. I mean, Frankfurt will likely try and feed off the home crowd early. How important is it that Spurs don't concede first tonight out there, knowing we struggle to score goals and our bounce back ability is pretty poor?
We've been able to claw back draws. We just haven't that often, it feels like, clawed back to get wins. It feels like when we have gone down, we've been able to somehow salvage a point, but we need all 3 points tonight. So it is important that we don't concede first. We did, of course, an exceptional job, I think, in handling the crowd the last time we went there. So hopefully and the majority of the players that played away from home at Frankfurt will be playing tonight. I think the only exceptions would be, I believe it would be James Maddison and then Dejan Kulusevski and perhaps Pedro Porro. But for the most part, a lot of those guys played against Frankfurt away from home last season. So they would know what the atmosphere is like. They also would hope that, it's not a game that's as pressure full in their case, in Frankfurt's case, to win the game. So you feel like there's that good experience they've been there before. They know the pitch, they know the fans, and they've been successful there in the past, right? So then there's that added confidence of knowing that you have gotten the job done there before, and probably a harder, more pressureful scenario. So I think all of that could come in handy. And honestly, having Dominic Solanke back, who scored, of course, that important, penalty, which was one of the most pressured penalties I can remember in a long time for a Spurs player, to be perfectly honest. And he absolutely dispatched it. Matisse Tell won't be available. I remember he had a great game against Frankfurt last season. Hopefully Odebear can fill in his place. But yeah, Dave, I think, to be honest, I think the players will benefit, hopefully, from the fact that they've actually gotten the job done only last year, not like a few years ago, not a couple of years ago, literally last year around this time. So hopefully they can replicate that again.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. They know exactly what they're walking into. There should be no surprises. They already know how to handle this sort of environment. So hopefully, we get the job done and Dr. Tottenham doesn't arrive. Drop kick, your teacher says, you think Dr. Tottenham prefers Donor or Bratwurst? Oh,
I miss a Donor.
I think anyone that picks Bratwurst over Donor needs to get psychologically evaluated. To be honest with you, drop kick your teacher. Donor is the best meat in the world, my man. Good to see you in the building, and also good to see Al in the building. Hopefully you're keeping well. Even gentlemen on the panel, hoping Dr. Tottenham doesn't make an appearance against a weak Frankfurt side. If we play Dr. Frank Einstein football, then we may see an appearance. It'll be interesting to see what way Frank sort of sets up tonight, my man. Dermo, how are you feeling about the match tonight? Confident in a big win or nervous given the high stakes?
I'm confident of a big win. I'm always confident of a big win. I always back the team to win, never to lose. But look, I'm not delusional to know that we've got injury problems. We are going to miss Mickey van der Ven tonight. We are going to miss Porro tonight. So we are missing a few players. But look, it is as Soren and Jack have both said, this is a Frankfurt team that are not in great form at the moment. Conceded the most in the Champions League this season, 33rd place. So if we cannot go there and bat them tonight, then there's something seriously wrong. Because we seem to be played better in Europe than we do in the Premier League. Why do you think
that is, Dharma?
I think the Champions League, you have more freedom. The players have more space to do what they want to do. They have more freedom. I'm glad. I don't see my chief supporters in the chat. Big up to you, Levelin. Big up to you. I just think there's more freedom in the Champions League than there is in the Premier League. The Premier League's more tough and it's tight and it's fast, where European football is a bit more slowed down. You've got a bit more time in the ball, and I think this is where we've seen Xavi play well, because in the Champions League, because he's used to that European type football. But look, I hope a win tonight. I don't want to draw. I do not want to go into the playoffs with the injuries we've got. I think it would be suicidal if we do that, and we definitely will go out. But look, nobody gave us a chance last week with the injuries we've had. And what did we do? We ended up battering Dortmund. Yeah, Dortmund weren't great, but we won the game and got the 3 points. And I can see the same thing happening tonight.
Yeah, 100%. I'm starting to think maybe the squad have just turned up in the Champions League to piss Frank off, because he came out and said we weren't a Champions League team or a Champions League squad, and that we're sort of in it by default. It's almost like the players turned up on European nights just to prove them wrong in that regard. Dermot, in all seriousness, though, look, all else fails, we are guaranteed a playoff spot tonight. But how important is it, in terms of, this season and what we've got coming up in February, that we do just get the job done tonight and get inside the top 8? How much would that be in context? How huge would that be in context of injuries, pressure, and the manager's future as well?
I think it's really important with the injuries we've got, with the games we've got coming up as well. February's a really tough month. So I think it's vital tonight. And also I think it's about momentum, isn't it? It's about winning tonight, getting that confidence going into the Man City game on Sunday, where nobody's going to give us a hope in hell. But if the players have that confidence of getting a good win tonight, maybe they can take that into the game on Sunday. And also I think also for a sort of rest reasons as well, it gives us that time when the playoffs are playing. It gives us time to rest these players and get some of the injured players back and try to get some sort of a squad together. If we're in the playoffs, it doesn't give injured players time to get back. We're rushing them back because we need them. So tonight is vital we get a win. A, for confidence. B, to give us a little bit of momentum going in against Man City on Sunday. And C, we don't have to worry about the players, because then we can rest the injured players, get them back, get them fully fit, so we can crack on with the rest of the season. But Frankfurt are really poor this year. So I don't see any other way where we don't win tonight. Maybe that's the kiss of death. Maybe that is the kiss of death. We'll go out and we do like we did against Zagreb and teams like that when they've had no managers, or it would be Tottenham if we did do that. To be fair, it really would be us.
Be great
But
if we had no manager tonight. We probably stand a better chance. But
do you know what, Jack? That's the Tottenham's biggest problem is the manager. I think he's the biggest obstacle at the moment, because look at the way we played against Dortmund, attacking, free flowing. That was the best first half I've seen all season against Burnley, and Burnley was a woeful result. I know what you said, sorry, not being a bad result. That draw felt like a defeat for me. As a game we should be winning, and where did that momentum go from the Dortmund game? It totally went out the window because he changed the system again. And then he's going to change another system tonight. The players have no consistency what they're doing. Every game it's different. So I would have kept it the same as Dortmund, keep the same for Burnley because it worked, and then keep it the same tonight.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting.
I would say very quickly, I would say that Thomas Frank is our biggest obstacle of all this season.
Martin, good to see you, sir. How are you keeping?
Good evening, good evening. Sorry for the lateness, but lateness is greatness, apparently.
Huh?
Lateness is greatness.
It is. It is. Listen, Martin, if Spurs do qualify automatically for the last 16 tonight, does that change how the season is judged from a fan's perspective? Could one more big European performance generally swing opinion again on Thomas Frank? Because he is a guy under pressure.
The optimist would say yes, the pessimist no. Listen, at the end of the day, tonight we're going through it, or we've either got playoffs or we're automatically through. So there's going to be another one game or another two games, whatever it is. So you might as well go for it tonight. But then all the fans are going to do with what we've seen this season, like we had the momentum last week, went into the weekend, bang. So it will just be, well, he's got through there. He saved himself 2 games, but, in the playoffs. But people just go, it's just kicking the can down the road, isn't it? So I don't think it's going to take any pressure off him at all. And I think half the problem is he's putting the pressure on himself. You can blame the fans, this, that, and the other, but I'm sure he's not sitting there watching every podcast on YouTube wanting to know what everyone's saying about him. So this is him in his little bubble, in his little world, with his little minions doing what they want to do. They see a great performance on Wednesday night or Tuesday, whenever it was. And then, all right, he tried against Burnley, but let's go back over the last 5 games. He hasn't really tried. So, we're just going on the evidence as it is without, I don't want to be negative all the time, but you're just being truthful seems to be negative because that's the way things are at the minute. So, to be honest, you look like you're being negative, it's one of them things, but I don't think he's helping himself. And I just don't understand why he can put a good performance in. We can be in 2-0 at half time, go in, and then you can take your foot off the pedal a bit. Then you can do your let's shore it up, let's not lose. But, it's mad how it is. I just don't understand sometimes what he does. It's driving me crazy.
I think he's driving everyone. I mean, I was screaming for subs at the weekend, and the guy's sitting down having tea with his coach room staff, and none of them are even listening to him. They're all looking at iPads. I mean, and then we ended up conceding. You could see it coming. He's absolutely wrecking my tits, this guy, with some of his decision making he's making. Soren, you're more of a optimist, internal optimist, despite all the shit that's going on around us. Do you believe if we win tonight, it buys Frank a bit of time and maybe sways the opinion in the media again back in his favour, maybe in the Spurs fan base? Or do you think it's beyond repair right now?
I don't think Frank's going anywhere. I really don't. I mean,
I agree with that.
I think he is here till the end of the season. I'm going to say unless we get really, really disastrous, and I know we're not far from that, but I just don't think this board are looking to get rid of a manager. And I think they're going to do absolutely everything they can to keep him until at least the summer, unless it's at the point where we are actually sitting in the bottom 3. I don't think they'll. I don't think they'll do anything. I'm pretty sure I've read that they've already come out and said they don't really want to go down the interim manager, and I get it. And I think as long as they've probably resigned themselves to thinking we're not getting Champions League unless we win it, and I just don't think they've got the balls to do it. And I don't think, well, maybe it's not so much they've got the balls to do it. I just think that they still believe he can do a job for them. And it might be until summer. It might be to the point of they know what they're going to do in the summer. You know, maybe they've already spoken to whoever it's going to be, or maybe, you know, that there's been enough signs to say that they can do what they want, or maybe they're just going to stick with Thomas Frank, but I don't see him going.
I agree with you at one point, Simon, where the board don't have the balls to do it. They don't have the ball. The board's Tottenham's been rudderless. Nobody's properly running Tottenham at the moment. You look at the transfer window has been non-existent. You look at Paratici wants to get rid of Thomas Frank, but Johan Lang and Vinay want them to stay. So there's a split already. You've got the board that haven't got the guts to make a decision. We're 8 points off West Ham. 8 points off the bottom three. West Ham have got momentum at the moment. We don't. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go down, but there's a good chance we are already in a relegation fight. And is Thomas Frank the man to get you out of that fight? I don't think he is. But the board have backed themselves so far into a corner where the only option is to keep him. To keep him in, because they've backed themselves into a corner. And also with not bringing players in, you know, we've had a woeful window. It's been absolutely dreadful.
The thing is,
this club it's not been run correctly. It's rudderless. There's nobody taking the ball by the horns to say this is what we're going to do. Damn if it goes wrong, but we're going to give it a good go. And they're sitting there thinking, oh, we'll leave him in charge. He's all right. We won't buy him any players, and we'll leave him in charge. Who does that help? Nobody.
The thing is, Dermot, I mean, everybody blamed Levy for absolutely everything wrong with this club. Levy has gone now, and I'll tell you what, this club is far worse without him. There is not one single person at this club right now that is steering us in the right direction. Now, maybe, you know, Levy was not perfect by a long way, and I get it. He had many, many, many faults. But this club just, it's just absolutely sinking faster than the Titanic did. And
he ran everything, didn't he?
To Levy's credit, he knew how to sack a manager. That's for sure.
Yeah,
he knew when to do it.
The thing is,
with the consequences.
I mean, everybody goes on about, well, we didn't know, you know, we never knew the direction of the club and all this lot. Well, the club have come out and told us what direction they want to take us in, and we're not going anywhere near that. You know, that was a left turn. We're going right. In fact, we're going around the roundabout and back down the same road we've come.
Well, what's come out recently, Soren, is like they're saying that, you know, they're indecisive over making difficult decisions or scary decisions. It's like
they're scared to go down the interim route.
Yeah, they're scared to go on the interim route, aka they're scared to make a difficult decision, really, when it comes to the manager. Whereas at the end of the day with Levy, he would make the decision, whether it was the right one or the wrong one. He would make one, and he would then just stick by it, and then would face the consequences later for it, and eventually get himself out of it, or even not, to be honest. But at least the guy would put his foot down at some point in making a decision at some stage. And that's the frustrating bit, is that they are just sleeping at the wheel, this ownership, and just expecting everything to get better. Whereas at the end of the day, Levy would do something.
Comment that you've just put up there, Dave. I think it was Andrew, was it? Andrew Burnett. You can't turn it round in 9 months. No, I agree with that. You can't turn a club round in 9 months, but you can actually make it look like you know what you're doing. That's the big difference. That this club, that's it. That's what I'm saying. This club does not know what it wants to do. Now, we were all promised that when Levy went, that things would be different. Well, we're 3/4 of a way through the transfer window, and we haven't got a clue who we're signing. We're not signing. You know, we were told that this window could be a good one, and it was a make or break and all this. Well, where's the make or break? This is the break. It's not making us. So anybody that comes out and says that we're so much better off without Levy, I get the argument with it, but looking at the club now, nobody would say this club has a direction or there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Somebody's blown the bloody candle out.
What concerns me the most is that they're keeping Thomas Frank in a job, not because they believe in him and they want to back him, it's because they're scared to make a change.
That's the point.
You know, that's what really scares me. And, you know, Vinay and Johan Lange were led to believe we're behind the appointment. They're not going to sack him. It's an admission of failure. The board, the Lewis family, the trust fund kids, you know, the inheritance, you know, that's all they're there to protect. They haven't a clue how to make these decisions. They're used to swanning around to Tottenham, hiding behind Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy making these decisions and being friendly with everyone. They're not used to having to pull people in and fire them and get rid of them and stuff like that. And that's where the big concern is. And then everyone's sitting here wondering where the transfers is. You know, everyone's sitting there going, we need a winger, we need a striker. Put yourself in a winger or a striker's position. Why would you move to Tottenham and want to come and play under Thomas Frank when we brought in some talent across Europe and none of them can produce underneath this guy? None of them. He's not going to enhance their career. He's not going to get them to, you know, start firing goals and assisting and add to what they were already doing to get that move to Tottenham Hotspur. Far from it. You know, if you're a defender or a midfielder, yeah, of course you're going to come in under Thomas Frank. You know, you'll do well underneath him. You'll score goals because of set pieces and the amount of rely on it. That's why Conor Gallagher signed. That's why that Brazilian kid signed. But no forward player is going to want to sign under this guy. You know, and it's really, really concerning where we are at right now. You know, that no one really wants to make a decision. And we are in deep, deep shit. And that's why nights like tonight, Europe, I say to everybody, sit back, enjoy it, because you know, we don't know how long this run is going to go on for in Europe, and at least it's a distraction from the fucking worries of domestic football right now. Anyway, Martin, we'll let you have your say on it, and then we're going to move on from talking about...
Well, yeah,
just one really quick point. Sorry, Martin.
You don't know quick points.
When we talk about backing the manager, though, what's wrong with just going out and buying players that are versatile, that are good enough to play for any manager, and show that we are still supporting? By buying no players, this transfer window has basically said we don't give a shit about the club, not the manager, the club, because they could have brought in other players like Conor Gallagher who can play for other managers. Rant over. Sorry.
Yeah, well, my thing's a bit of a mixture of all of what you're saying. Like, what forward would come? They've looked at, like, Moani. Now, we can all have our opinions and say he doesn't want to be here, he's taking the money, he wanted to beat Juventus, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, he hasn't turned into he was a £90 million player or whatever it was. You don't turn into a non-league player overnight. I'm sorry, he was banging him in at Juventus last year. So it's not just a case of, well, we don't want to be here, he's taking 300 grand a week and he's just run out of pitch. Something's happened there. Then, like, Xavi, like, we've spoken on here many times, he's looking up, he's trying, and the players ain't running. There's no patterns of play. There's all these little things that are all building up, and it's all systemic. It's not just a coincidence. And saying, we'll get Kulu back, Maddison back, we're going to be prime Barcelona. We're not. Because he's going to stifle them players as well, because if you're not teaching them, or it's not even so much teaching, they know how to kick a football, and they know you're at 6 years old, you're told first touch, trap it, lay it off. You taught that from when you can barely read or write. You know what I mean? So they're not just turning crackers, and they do what the manager asks them to do. Whether we sit here and say they should go fuck it and just crack on, at the end of the day, they do have to do what their bosses tell them, whether they like it or not, and you can see they don't like it. So there's all them parts to it. So adding players, this, that, and the other, ain't going to change Frank's mindset. You've got two ways to go out. You can either send them out and say, don't lose, whatever you do, and see if we can nick one. Or you can go out and say, try your hardest to go and smash the game, but just don't let anything in. It's nothing about tactics or 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 4-2-3. It's nothing about that. If they're set out to hold back than to go forward, if they're told to hold back, then the front players are running with their hands tied behind their back straight away. So it's not going to work. And the transfer budget, well, they told us the other week when the protest was going on, oh, we've got Conor Gallagher and Tottenham's going to have a big summer. That was the word going out, big summer. So basically, we're going to have a crap winter, but we're going to have a big summer. And they're just buying, because they got bought 6 months after they sacked Levy after the window. Then they got till now. Now they can't do it. We need another 6 months. Let's put out a letter and say this, that, and the other, and let's get us through to the summer. And that's all they're doing is just kicking the can down the road. They're learning on the job. They all think they're brilliant businessmen, and in their fields, they probably have been. But they're coming into a football world that, as I say, Levy has known it, and he's bought this club from what it was to the gigantic thing is. He knows every bit of toilet roll and every stone in that floor, and he does, and we didn't like it. But now you've got someone who doesn't know that there's the chopped up concrete in the floor, and they don't know that Dyson spins at 12,000 revolutions a second. But he did. Now we haven't got that. We've just got a load of people that are employing more and more people to do this one man's job, and they're actually doing worse than what he did. Does it mean we want him back? No, of course not. But it's time that we've got to give that no one's ready to give, because it's at the point where we can't give no more, and then they want to start making it. They should have done it 10 years ago. Things might be different.
Yeah.
My rant over.
Well, Martin, what you'll find as well is come summer, they'll sack Frank, they'll bring in Poch, and then they won't need to spend again because everybody will have calmed down again.
Yeah, that's all they're doing is kicking the can down the road while they learn on the job. That's just how I see it.
Yeah. Saying Enoch did say what they're going to do. If everyone remembers when they bought the club and they put out the Levy put out there and Enoch put out their statement, our aim is to get Tottenham to the Champions League. They did that. They got us to the Champions League. They got to a Champions League final. There was no to make this the most successful team in Britain. We're going to compete with the likes of Manchester United or whatever. Never in the whole 25 years had they said that. Their aim was to get to the Champions League. And they said that when they bought the club. And they've done that.
Levy said it. They sacked him.
Yes, they've done exactly what they said they were going to do. So any fan think where we're going to be... Hang on, can I finish, Soren, please? Sorry. Any fan that thinks that they were going to do anything different need to go back to when they made their first statement, because they actually did what they were going to say to do, and they need to go. They need to go, and they need to go now.
But now, Dermot, I agree with you, but you're wrong, because they updated the statement last year and said we want to compete on all 4 competitions. So that's been upgraded now. And where are we competing? We're not competing. I mean, we're still in the Champions League, but we're not competing on any floor now.
But that's why everyone needs to get down to the protest for the game at the weekend. And even if they do sack Thomas Frank and bring in someone else in, you got to keep the protest up. You got to keep going, so that when the next manager comes in, they're either get fed up with the protest and either sell up, or else they're forced into a position where they have to sort of sell money to appease or spend money to appease the fans. It's just about keeping the pressure on them now, because have you seen, noise is made, then all of a sudden the pressure comes off them, they revert back to old ways. So it's got to be continuous with these guys moving forward. Tin Man 007, good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. You're going to the game and the protest at the weekend. Let me know. He says, guys, imagine this: lose to City, United, Newcastle, and then get battered versus Arsenal. What would you guys do if you thought it's bad now? Well, look, to be honest with you, I'm sort of prepared for the worst anyway, to be honest with you. I said it a long, long time ago to people. I don't know if anyone remembers. Strap in, buckle in, get your seatbelts on. It is going to be one long, tough season because of our inability to be able to score goals, to be able to go and win games on a regular basis. And every game is going to be an absolute dogfight. So I prepared myself for this a long, long time ago, Tin Man. But look, you're hoping then once we get out of these fixtures, you do have like Wolves coming up, towards the end of the season, Sunderland and teams like that. And you're hoping that maybe we can win 9 games and do enough to be able to survive and regather ourselves in the summer, Tin Man. But look, yeah, I think it could be a very dark month next month. Look, at the end of the day, it is football. Anything can happen. Anything's possible on any given day. We might if we can turn out a couple of results, happy days. But, looking at the team we are and how we struggle again to score goals, I'm not really, pumped up for this run of fixtures, to be honest with you, Tim.
Definitely prepare for the worst, isn't it? And if anything's a bonus, then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then if you end up pulling out a couple of results, you're on Mars, Tin Man. I prefer to be like that sometimes. Really appreciate the support, Tin Man. And we've got Sugar Ray WBC. Good to see you. Never been so down about my club. Bilbao should have launched us to get back into the Big Six. ENIC 2.0, far worse than Levy. Think we're cooked. Well, I remember saying that in the summer, and I got absolutely ridiculed for it, Sugar, around the managerial appointment. You know, where was the ambition around it? You got the whole football world open. You can more or less go and buy anyone you want out their contract and coaching staff. And we stumbled upon Thomas Frank. And I was going absolutely ballistic about in the summer about not using the Europa League to kick on. Where's the ambition and everything else? And I got absolutely ridiculed for it. But, you know, that's where the mistake was made in the summer with the manager. At the end of the day. Now, look, not everything is Thomas Frank's fault. Of course not. People need to look up at the board level, need to start looking at Vinay, Johan Lang, you know, the people that are the ones pulling the strings at this football club. Thomas Frank is only a head coach at the end of the day. He is only here to manage, you know, what the club given, and he's not doing a good job of that. But the mistake was made in the summer, and that's why we're paying for it now. Not doing it. I remember at the deadline day, the last word I said, you know, on the deadline day stream was, it's what you don't do, which comes back to bite you. And here we are now in January, searching around to fix 3, 4, 5 different problems. You've only really got one room in the squad in terms of making a Champions League change moving forward. So some players you're bringing in won't be able to be registered for the Champions League. That's one big conundrum. Then you're looking at needing 4 players and wingers. Why would any of them want to come and play under Thomas Frank, seeing how little he gets out of these forward players? You know, and not only that, then, if you are a player and you've got other options on the table, why would you come to Tottenham Hotspur right now with how much of a mess it's in? You know, so there's all these things, you know, that are working against us. I have no doubt there's people out there trying to get players in. We can't do what we've done in the previous January and go and bring in a Kinski and players like that who we're now selling on. You can't do that anymore. It has to be the right guy. And if it's not, then we're going to have to wait, you know, unfortunately, till the summer, because squad space right now is limited. And the club have already made a policy that they're not letting anyone go. So they're not willing to clear out anybody to bring anybody in. So, unfortunately, I think the rest of this window looks quite bleak. You probably get a new contract on deadline day, and you might get 1 or 2 rumors surface just to keep you interested.
It looks like now Conor Gallagher's just probably homesick, and he's just come back to London because there's nothing else coming in, and it is an opportunity for him to get back as much as it was for us to get a midfielder. Because, as you say, no one else has come, no one, and you know. So we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it doesn't fill you with any confidence, does it? To think we aren't even being linked to be turned down, which is just nothing.
Absolutely nothing. It's scary, yeah, Sugar. Scary, my man. Scary times. And then we've got Ledley Knees in the house.
Great name.
Yeah. Maybe ENIC's view fighting the drop as a competition. Don't get me going. But
they're doing a lot with West Ham, so they're probably thinking how Sullivan is. They're probably out having lunch with Sullivan every day, and I think this is the way to do it.
Well, if we end up giving West Ham Kinski, it seems like we're going to try and help the teams to try and pull us into this scrap, Ledley. Maybe they're West Ham fans and not really Spurs fans. Who knows? But big up Ledley Knees, great name. Geez, what I'd do for a Ledley King in the dressing room right now for this relegation scrap. My God, big up, my man. But look, guys, let's keep it moving. I mean, Jack, do you expect Frank? Jack, do you have anything you want to say on that, on any of them subjects before we move on?
No, just the 2 super chats. Just quickly, I would just say to Tin Man, I think at the end of the day, you know, Dave and I will continue to have people like Billy, you know, talking about protests, bringing up the need to come together, not have infighting amongst the fan base, but actually come together in unity in the common goal of putting pressure on this board to either sell or change their ways. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm not giving any money to Spurs this year. I haven't at all. I haven't bought anything. Not planning on going to any games this season. So, you know, at the end of the day, I am just going to probably watch the car crash from a considerable distance, but do appreciate it. And then in the case of
talking about car crashes this week, Jack.
Jeez, everything I'm saying is, you know, end up. I said Dinamo Zagreb. Now I'm bringing up car crashes with Kolovani, Sugar Ray as well. I would just say, I mean, going into the season, I felt like a lot of people are in my boat where pretty relaxed. We didn't really have like high standards. We were talking about like finishing 8th or 9th, you know, at least challenging potentially for a conference league spot, going decently far into a cup. Of course, we would all want to win a cup. I don't think anyone was saying we have to win another one, you know, straight away type of thing. We knew that we had finished 17th the previous season. We knew that there needed to be a big rebuilding phase under a new manager. And somehow, some way, they have fallen so far below those already very low expectations. And I think that's the real down, is that I think we were all going to be living off of the high of Bilbao if this season wasn't going as terribly as it is right now. That's the real frustrating bit. Is it's almost so Spurs-esque to have us only live the joy of Bilbao for like a few weeks instead of months and months and months, to be perfectly honest. It's really sad.
And the thing is, you barely even have time to remember Bilbao with what's going on right now. It's sort of eroded from the memories. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy it happened, especially with what transpired with my dad over the summer. It shows that sometimes life can sort of work its wonders. You know, I got to celebrate that trophy with him and all before he sort of got sick and stuff like that. But it's almost a far gone memory right now. It feels like it happened years ago, you know, with how this season has turned out. Big up Kate Rickson says, David, it's pure neglect of this club and the board down to the bare bones, not buying in some ready-made players in. It's absolutely shocking, Kate. Absolutely incompetence at the highest level. And the fact that they don't even want to get rid of Vinay or Johan Lang and even hold them accountable, I mean, just it's absolutely insane, because they were the bones behind this Thomas Frank appointment. And look how it's gone. And if they're behind it, it's up to them to back it properly and stuff at the end of the day as well. Adam Horlock, good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. And Logan has sent in another super sticker, Jack. I think he just wants to show off his dog at this point.
Yeah, I don't blame him. It's a very good looking dog. He sent in a star. He sent in a medal. Thank you very much, Logan.
Really
appreciate it.
that.
And Logan, it's been nice to have you, through these. I'll use a different phrase this time instead of the one I used previously, but it's nice to have you through these crazy roller coasters of streams and everything, and just handling Spurs with us. And of course, you've been putting in a lot of good comments as well on top of the donation. So do appreciate it. And if anybody wants to do what Logan has or what others have and want to get their opinion in, or just want to support the channel, we do really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Big up, everybody. I keep smashing that like button as well. I
Yes,
know
please.
you hear people say it all the time, but actually really does help with the new algorithm settings with YouTube and stuff. It actually really helps. It just shows that you guys like it, and then it helps push it out further and further. But if you don't like it, I presume you just want to keep this secret corner to yourselves, which I'm okay with as well. But Jack, I mean, look, there's no point of asking you, what you want to see us do. I think it's pretty obvious everyone wants to see us go on the front foot. They're there for the taking. They've conceded 42 goals this season. It feels like this is an opponent that Spurs should target from the off and go at. But what do you expect Thomas Frank to do? How do you expect him to approach this game today? Cautiously? Do you expect him to look to control possession, minimize risk, or sort of go aggressive, try to kill the game early like we done against Dortmund last week?
It's been a different story away from home versus at home in Europe this season. Away from home, I think we've set up very conservatively, almost to our own detriment. Against Bodo Glimt, I understood if you wanted to have somewhat of a mid-block, type of setup. I think we even did a similar one, if I remember, away from home against them, even though we were 3-1 up, so it made sense to do that. But we set up so deep. Like, we had basically our own strikers just a few yards outside of our 18-yard box. And then something similar was the case against Monaco, really, where we just showed the opposition far too much respect that ended up being our own detriment. And it set the tone, I think, in the wrong way, where we were looking to just salvage like a point or maybe nick a goal against the run of play and then hold on for the rest of our lives in the game. It just was the wrong approach, in my opinion. And the only game you could say away from home where we did actually go for it again was probably PSG for the most part. Like, we did show at least some endeavor in that game. We did show that aggression. We tried to turn the ball over in good areas. I would say I'm worried, Dave, to be honest, with how Thomas Frank will go about this, because for the most part, away from home in Europe, it's not been the happiest of reading, really. It's been a lot of games where you would say he's set up too conservatively and has looked and been far too pragmatic that it's almost hurt us. I defend pragmatic football. I actually don't mind it, but I think Thomas Frank has just gotten it wrong on many occasions so far away from home in Europe. So I'm a little bit worried, to be perfectly honest, how he'll set up.
Yeah, well, you look at Monaco, back to the walls. You look at the respect we show Bodo. You know what I mean? If he sets up this way tonight, I'm going to absolutely lose my rag, because these are there for the taking tonight. They have nothing to play for. They can't even get out into a qualifying round. They're leaking goals left, right, and centre. They're not a great team. They've also got injury problems. They've got an interim in charge right now. They have nothing to play for tonight. It's a dead rubber for them. They'll probably save or conserve a lot of their energy for the weekend. But if we sit off, respect them, and allow them to play themselves into a game, then they expect the same thing that we happened against West Ham, that's happened against Burnley recently and stuff like that. We need to go for the fucking jugular tonight. He needs to send this team after them. When is he going to realize? And it's probably because he's got too much hair. It's just taking its while to channel into its brain. But, you know, we are a better team when we play on the front foot. Now, of course, it doesn't mean he has to go as gung-ho as Ange Postecoglou did. But look to play on the front foot. Look to turn teams early. This is what this team was built for under the previous manager. You know, at some point, you know, his way isn't working. So he's got to try a different way. And when he does play on the front foot, we are a better watch. We are a better team. All the players look a bit more confident. They look more focused. They look like they're enjoying themselves a hell of a lot more. So he better go for them tonight. If he sits back and, you know, goes cautious and stuff and looks for a point tonight, we might end up paying the price if fixtures don't go our way. And lately, fixtures haven't been going our way. Our luck is absolutely horrific. Luca Williams-Barnett picked up an injury, didn't travel today. You know, so much so, the boys had a blowout on the motorway yesterday, Uda Burmawani. It's like the whole universe is trying to injure our players right now. You know, so now is the time to be brave and go and try and make our own look rather than sit back and be the pragmatist and the pessimist that Thomas Frank is tonight. It's of utmost importance. And I get we've got injuries and stuff like that, but why can't we go and look to kill the game in the first half like we done against Stormont and then preserve our energy in the second half rather than trying to expend ourselves late in the game to try and salvage something, or because results are dictating that we now need to go for it. We can't put ourselves in that position tonight. And if we do, I'm going to lose my mind with the guy. But guys, let's move on to Mickey van de Ven and Pedro Porro. You know, they're both absent. Porro's out for 4 weeks. Mickey van de Ven, we're told, will be back for the weekend. How true that is remains to be seen. I mean, we were told Solanke was only going to be out for a while. He ended up being out for like 6-7 months. How big of a blow is Van de Ven and Pedro Porro missing from that back line tonight? Do you think Spurs can cope defensively without them tonight? Anyone?
Sorry, who was that, sir?
I spoke last, so I'm letting someone else come in.
Go on, I'll go then.
Go on.
No, that's one. Stu, you may as well.
I think it shouldn't on a night like tonight. The Porro one worries me a bit more. If Mickey van der Ven's just out for one game, we can survive. If we're talking, you know, another, like, let's say Pedro's 4 weeks, we've got to look at 8. By then, you're at the end of the season. So we just don't have any luck in that department. And it's not just under Frank, it's been for the last 3 years. So no one's come back early. And if they do, they've been rushed back and then they're out again for even longer the next time. So whatever comes out the medical department, I don't believe. I just double it. And, you know, we've all said all season, we want a left back in. So Spence they can fight out 2 of them and both of them can get a break. Now it's going to be Spence always on the left and now he's going to be thrown on the right and he's not going to get a break. You know,
do you think he's going to get on the right? Because he, you know, under Ange, he was played on the right a couple of times, wasn't bad. You know, I remember against Southampton, he sort of took the game to them and killed the game within the opening minutes of the game. But then under this time, a couple of seasons when he's played out there under Frank, he hasn't looked as good as he is on the left.
Yeah, it's like what I think someone said it the other week. It's like when he was at Forest, he had Johnson, the 2 of them there were together, and we never see that. And you know, whatever we think of Johnson, you know, but it was, if there's a relationship and some camaraderie there that they might know where each other's going, it helps the game. But when Jed's on the right and you don't know, it's the no movement thing. And like we see last week, like you just said, Dave, when they play forward and they play attacking and they're all looking forward and they're all running into space, the team flows that much better. It looks natural. We don't look a bad team. But when they're all being held back, and like the other week when you say they run up to the halfway line and they stopped, it's like they're doing what they're instructed to do, so that if they're thinking about it, they're not naturally playing their game. So where Jed would be naturally playing and doing, if he's being told, right, don't go past this point, don't do that. Well, I think on the left, he's given a bit more license because he cuts in. I think he's given a bit of license. But on the right, he's a bit more regimented with a bit more instruction to sit and do. So I honestly just think it is messages that are being put into their heads and it's holding them all back. But he's a right back by trade. He's been there all his life, so he should be able to play right back. But if you're being a right back with constraints, you're going to see a right back with constraints. And when they're thinking about it, not playing natural, that's when mistakes happen. And then that's when we go, oh, he's shit. He should have done this. Like we've said with Porro, he needs to learn how to defend. This season, he's learned how to defend a lot more. But look what we've lost. You know, everything's got a trade-off. Why can't they just be good at attacking, good at crossing, and being able to get back? Just go forward in parts rather than be one or the other. Because then they're always thinking, and their natural ability and their natural mindset is being, oh, I shouldn't do that. And that's where the flow and the breakdown, and the player don't know where to go because he don't know where Chavi's going to be. He don't know who's running down the right wing. Kudus is going to get the ball. Well, Kudus is going to hang on to it and hang around there, so we're not going to do this. You know, and it's just, I think they're all just being so held back that they can't just be the good footballers that they can be. And, you know, so you do have a bit of fear of what Jed can do. If he's told, just do what you can, get up, but make sure you defend. Or if he's told, don't cross the halfway line, don't do this, you're going to see that player. So it's...
With Jed, it's an interesting one because I think blessing in disguise, he'll probably do better defensively against some of the teams we've got coming up, you know, over the next month, and might help us that regard. But going forward, him and Wilson Odobert were starting to link up and strike a good sort of creative partnership and starting to provide a bit of a spark. And now all of a sudden, you know, Wilson Odobert has probably got that Porro's gone in, you know, in that regard. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword with Mickey van de Ven. Danzo's a capable centre-back, but, you know, I think we're better when we've got Mickey van de Ven and Romero in there personally. But, you know, it's one that maybe we could cover to a certain extent. But look, let's take a couple of these and then we will move on because we'll ask Soren and Dermo and we'll have a little conversation around our captain tonight. Romero, everyone's favourite player in this fan base. We've got Adam Horlock. Good to see you, member for 1 month. Next 4 Prem games have many. How many points is acceptable? To be honest with you, I'd take 4 from it. I'd be like, you know, I think 4 is okay. It helps us, you know, come out the back end of the season and maybe takes a little bit of pressure off us in terms of being really dragged down into it as well. Anything more than that for me would be an absolute bonus, Adam. Big yourself up, my man. Jack, how many points would you?
I had the same point tally. I would say around 4. We're not dropping so many points that I would imagine Forest and West Ham will probably pick up a similar amount of points in their next 4 games. So as long as we get around 4, I think we'll be okay and keep our distance.
Keep the gap.
Yeah. Just keep the gap. I don't expect us to soar into the top 10, but yeah, if we can get 4, Dave, I think I'm in the same boat as you. And
if you go and look at all the other teams around us, a lot of them have a pretty easy month in terms of winnable fixtures, bar maybe Leeds. So, you know, it's 4 points would help us out massively, Adam. Faz Radfar, good to see you. Says, do we trust the owners win another sacking? Personally, I don't. But it's not even them that made the decision. They don't know what decision to make in football. They're wet behind the ear. They're not footballing people. They've employed Vinay to do it and Johan Lang. And at the end of the day, they're the ones I do not trust to be able to bring in another manager. I said it yesterday. If a little fat Teletubby like me from Ireland can sit there and point out where I think this is going to go wrong from the very beginning and highlight certain things, and a lot of them have come true, that's their job to have this sort of foresight and predict outcomes and stuff like that. And they have failed absolutely miserably in this one. So for me, I'd like to see them gone. I'd like to see the board get in maybe some people that actually understand the club, maybe some ex-players, and start getting advice off them on what direction to go in and stuff like that, and just rebuild it that way. Faz Radfar, good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Dermo has also gifted out a channel membership. Very, very kind of you, Dermatron, and that has gone to JDGV. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. And he said, thank you, Dermo. So fair play to you, Dermo. Very, very kind of you, sir. Adrian Chia says, big up, lads. Thomas Frank is adverse to winning. I just think he's a manager that will do well with smaller clubs where there's less pressure, less scrutiny from the media, less maybe ambitious fans and stuff like that. He will do well at a club like that because he will get the time over a longer period of time to implement what he's trying to do. he's just not cut out for a big club. He's not used to this scrutiny and everything else. And the problem is he's not open to change either. He's just tried to plug in and play what he done at Brentford. He's not really open to change. And we've seen that, most people last year were moaning about the previous guy being stubborn, Ange Postecoglou, people moaning about Jose being stubborn, Conte being stubborn. I don't hear anyone talking about how stubborn Frank's been this year in terms of refusing to change and adapt and stuff like that. And that's one thing, we were led to believe by all the Frank experts out there, that this guy is adaptable and stuff like that. And, that'll help us get more results. Well, I'm yet to see it. I'm still waiting. TikTok on that one. And then we've also got Simon Coley in the house. Good to see you, Simon. Hopefully you're keeping well. I'm going for blind optimism tonight. 2-0 Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. Well, we are better in Europe. And I am going into this one with a bit more optimism. Come the weekend, I'll probably be a bit more doom and gloom because the realities of the Premier League and that and the struggles will set back in. But in Europe, I think we should all go into these games excited. And at the end of the day, we've got nothing to lose tonight, really, to a large degree, Simon Coley. So we could just sit back and enjoy, my man. But I will say, make sure you do have your magnets and your board polished up and ready to go and cleaned and stuff, because we very well could be looking for an intern very, very quickly, my man. So just make sure you are ready, buddy. Good to see you.
Magnets.
Polish your magnets, new pack of gum, brand new man, Simon. We'll have you.
Bubble wrap it. Keep it all nice and clean.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Let's get on, guys, and talk about El Capitan. Christian Romero scored 3 goals in the last 3 games and continues to lead this club from the front like a club captain should, despite what Tyler's going to say to me in the comments. Soren, just how important is his role tonight, both in terms of performance and leadership on the pitch to guide us through, especially with all the injuries and stuff?
My captain. He's my captain. I'm not going to say a bad word against. I love that guy as a footballer. Look, we know he's rash. We know he makes mistakes, and we know sometimes his concentration goes, but he also goes and does it at the other end. I mean, is he not our joint second top scorer this season?
I think there's like one in the difference between him and Van de Ven.
Yeah, look, I know he's got his faults, but I still think he's a great footballer, great defender. I think somebody in the chat put earlier about playing him in centre midfield somewhere, and we spoke about this last year, sort of putting him as like a number 6 or something like that. And I don't think it'd be a bad idea, because I do think the guy can play. I think he's got a brilliant pass on him, and put him up front. But yeah, his role tonight, he needs to keep a cool head. I just think he's a very typical Argentinian player, South American player. He's headstrong, he's emotional, he's exactly what you expect from that sort of Argentinian, Brazilian type player. And I, to be honest with you, I wouldn't swap him for any of our defenders. I think he was the perfect choice when we all sat here in the summer when Sonny was going, saying who should be the captain, and I said Romero. I'm still sticking by that. I think he's, at the moment, I don't think there's many. I mean, we said Paulinho once he came in that if he was permanent, then he would be a good captain. But Frank doesn't seem to want to play him that often. Gallagher might be, but obviously they're not playing tonight anyway. So I think he's the perfect captain still, and I would put him down on that team list first every time.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think it's one of the decisions Thomas Frank did get right. Just quickly, Simon Cole, I didn't actually check this. Do you wear skinny jeans, or can you get into skinny jeans? That's absolutely a must nowadays. So make sure you let me know on that one, my man. But panel, or Dermo, we'll come down to you. I know you are a bit up and down with Romero. It's like a bit of a lover's tiff you have got going on with him. I'm not sure why, but when it comes to, say, if we were to say Thomas Frank were to leave and another manager comes in, would you like to see him change the captaincy, or would you like to see it continue on with Romero?
By the way, Simon Cohen, you have a wicked picture. That is Queen from the from I think the Queen Tomb album when they come out Bohemian Rhapsody. That was the picture. So Simon got a cool. Pardon?
Trust you to spot that.
Dermot loves showing his age, doesn't he? He really does.
Yeah.
He's
I'm a massive
proud of it.
Queen fan. I'm a massive Bowie and Queen fan. So that I love Queen. Look, Romero. Yes, Dave. I have had a bit of a up and down with him this season. You and me have had a debate on a podcast.
Are you married or
him and-
divorced with him right now, Dermot?
No, I'm still married. I'm still married to him. It's fine. I still trust him.
Cheating. It's just cheating.
No,
Yeah,
no,
cheating.
no. It's just that I think at the time with me where Romero is, I want to see consistency from him every week, be the same. And Tyler's right. The mistakes he does make does kill us, like the one he made against where was the game? Was it not Burnley? The game before at home where he just got left for dead. Or was against Dortmund and he got left for dead. I know they didn't score, but it's just little lapse of concentration. Just you need to keep it on all the time. But like when he tackles, I always say you've been Romero'd. It's a bit like you've been tangoed back in the day, but you've been Romero'd. And I love his feistiness. I love the way he gets up in referees' faces. I love the way that he's an old school defender. He's an 80s defender, a bit of Graham Roberts in him, and that's what I like about him. But as captain, I think it was a great choice, and I still think it's a good choice. I got frustrated with him, I think, during the early part of the season, and I think the 2 goals against Newcastle, Dave, shut me up. And I think after that, I've been fine with them ever since. Just needs to kick out these lapses of concentration. I think if that's all, if he can iron that out of his game, I think then we've got a world class, we've got a Rolls Royce as a defender. We're ready.
I think what we need from Romero is, defensively, if he just communicated a lot more, some of them goals we concede wouldn't happen if he just opened his mouth more. And that is his job at the end if he's wearing the captain's armband. Not only to look after his own game, but also, realize danger, pull other people in, give them nuggets of information and stuff like that. That is your job traditionally as a captain. And I think he lets himself down in that regard. But my God, does he make up for it going up the other end? He was the one that led the surge against Dortmund, opened the scoring, rescued a point for us last week, rescued a point for us away to Newcastle. He's almost keeping Frank in the job with some of the high-profile goals he's scoring. And, I've never seen a centre-back like him and Mickey Van de Ven that go up the other end and contribute the amount of goals they do. But when it comes to Romero, I'd like to see him continuing as captain. I do think he is the right guy, to try and help lead this club. But I do think now, with where we are in the Premier League, and tonight especially, he needs to now step up and start being a lot more vocal. That is an area of weakness in his game, in my opinion, is the organisation maybe of that back line. But make no mistake about it, I think he's absolutely invaluable to Tottenham Hotspur, and we really do need another Rombomulus tonight. I absolutely pray for one. But look, I suppose we'll keep it moving unless Martin or Jack, you have anything.
Just want a quick one on him. The weekend when he scored that goal, right, he ran over and he kicked that advertising board, and then they showed him right to the halfway line. He was bent over and he was in pain. 2 minutes later, he's gone off. Right, so that could have been a lot worse. But no one picked up and it said everyone was celebrating. But he kicked it and then he got the halfway line. He bent over on his knees. He was in trouble, and then he had one more run after that, and then he went off. And then he didn't even bother walking around the pitch. He sat on the sideline waiting for the game to end so he could walk across, and it worried me. I thought, there's another one out.
One thing that makes me laugh is, and Dermot nearly said it, I thought he was going to go with it, where he's up in the referees' faces. This guy who can't talk English, apparently. Them bloody referees knows what he's saying.
He gives him a good talking to on a consistent basis.
Referee English.
Whatever he's saying. Yeah, that's funny.
He probably put up a Roy Keane notebook. Yeah, he's been watching a lot of Roy Keane back in the day, getting up in referees' faces. Come on, lads, join me. Come on, let's all go up in the referees' faces here.
I do agree that old school leader that you used to have, where you have 8 of them on the pitch, you're telling you, you don't see that anymore. No one's taking charge and directing players where to be and being that conductor of the orchestra. They're all quick to moan each other when the mistakes happen, but no one's helping each other be in other places. Like when they're running the ball, you don't see no one, get over there. You just don't see that no more. So he is the closest we've got to it, as in the defending side, but he doesn't do that leading side, does he? That talking, and he doesn't read the game in that way where he should telling players to be, you know. But I don't think anyone is. I'm not bashing him with that.
I'll tell you what I think he does. I was just going to say, I'll tell you what I think he does. I think he stood in front of the referee talking in Argentinian, telling him what he had for his tea last night. But he says it with that much of an attitude, the refs think he's actually having a go at them.
Yeah.
And he's probably just saying spaghetti and chips and all that sort of thing. I really want to be here tonight.
When it comes to Romero, though, just to finish off what you were saying, Martin, you know, and this is where I think maybe, you know, Frank needs to get into him. Frank needs to encourage that more out of him. A good manager will spot that weakness in him and sort of say, look, this is what I need from you. This is what, you know, this, and show him examples of great leaders and great captains that done that and stuff like that. You know, this is where, although he's not a manager, he's a head coach. He needs to help these players grow. He needs to help develop them. And that is something that he needs to be pulling Romero in and speaking to him about. And if he doesn't, I would hope the next manager does. Because I do think it would elevate.
Romero does it for Frank, it's going to help Frank. So it's every little advantage you can get. I just don't understand why the players and the managers don't do that and demand. They don't seem to demand that high level of intensity and everyone be on the same page. It's all sort of, you know, like society. Although, you know, let's tread carefully here. We don't want to upset anyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So hopefully Frank can get into his ear. And we've also got the Big D in the house. Good to see you, my man. Member for 24 months. How long is it? Let us know. He says 2 years, fellas. I know it's been longer. Geez, you're here around 4 or 5 years at this point, to be honest with you, my man. Good to see you, the Big D. Hopefully you're keeping well, lad. You pumped for tonight's game? Do let us know in the chat, my man.
Good to have you with us, man. Thanks for the longevity of support, the Big D. Been with us through many roller coasters. Big up, sir.
And from the Big D to DB. Good to see you, sir. How are you keeping? Hopefully you're keeping well. You guys are starting to give me a rap song going here. You know, I might be MC Dave by the end of this. And then we've also got Silver Spurfer. Big up from Frankfurt. Come on, you Spurs. So you made it out there. Hopefully you enjoy yourself out there. I believe it's cold out there. Very, very cold out there tonight. So make sure you wrap up warm. Get some Bovril, you know, into you. It's not what they used to have, you know, in the olden days. I'm sure Dermot can confirm that. And then we've also got Sam Samboy in the house. And he's wishing more pain on Spurs. Well, look,
looks
you know,
like
you sit back and reminisce on that great night you had out in Bilbao. You know, we lose to everyone, but we didn't lose to you. So, you know, take that. And everybody, we
gotta let Dermot
go. As much as we're having fun here today, we do have to let Dermot leave the party. He's got another party to attend. So, Dermot, what's coming up on the channel? Why do people need to get across and subscribe?
Well, if you want to see more of Dave, he's joining me tomorrow at 1 for Irish Lads Talk Spurs. Yes, it is back, the most popular podcast on YouTube. We're two Irish lads, just give it to you straight and tell you what it's like to be Spurs fans in this beautiful country of ours. I'm just getting the boat out. Yeah.
Can we push it back till 2 o'clock? Because I want to go gym.
No problem. At the moment, Dave, with so much rain over here in Wexford, I've got my boat outside to boat my way down to Gorey tomorrow. Because the nearest town to us is totally flooded. Yeah, well, not us, luckily. Enniscorthy, which is about 40 minutes away, the whole town is flooded. Absolutely, it's awful down there. But yeah, we've got the watch along later. We've got After the Whistle. We've got shows coming up at the weekend. We've really started growing and really started getting more numbers, and we're getting bigger. So I'm absolutely over the moon. So we will catch up with Dave and Jack at some point, but probably not in the next 20 years. The day I'll catch up with these lads is the day I'm going to retire from YouTube. So, lads, you're safe. You're still the #1 Irish Spurs channel in Ireland. I'm number 2, though. But yeah, lots going over there. But yeah, please do come over and hit a like and subscribe in here first. But yeah, I better bounce before I'm late.
Yep. Have a good one, Dermot.
Make sure you get down and get some armbands.
Come on, you Spurs.
I will do. I've got them already, Dave, ready to go out. See you later. Come on,
see you later. Bye-bye.
Dermot's off to his Queen party.
You'll get breaking news, Dermot. You see Dermot on the news floating along with Spurs boxers, Spurs socks, Spurs armbands, and everything else. Be hilarious. We've also got Faz back again. He says, no disrespect, Frank doesn't even look like a manager.
He don't at the minute.
Oh, yeah. At the minute, he doesn't. That's for sure.
You see him walking off the pitch on Burnley the weekend, and he's like waving to the crowd. He was like, Jesus Christ, I'm just better give it a... Like he's being eaten alive out there, isn't he?
That's what's funny though, right? Is that he was pretty universally liked or at least respected before he went to Spurs. Like he was seen
He
as like a
ruined
guy.
everyone, though.
There was not. He was kind of one of those managers I don't think anyone really had anything bad to say about for the most part, really, because he did a great job at Brentford at the end of the day. Of course, it's pretty impressive that Keith Andrews is doing an even better job than he ever did. But at the end of the day, he took Brentford and established them in the Premier League, and he's of course a very likable guy. He's mannered. He's respectful. It's just that one, like Dave said, you go to a big club, you do get chewed out. You know, you will get figured out, and the pressure is on you every single game. You start to be asked more difficult questions, even though he is a bit of a media darling, and they don't seem to ask the same questions to him that they did
If
to
you
Ange
look at his
Postecoglou.
first interview after when he come back off holiday, he walked into the club with his little tan, and he was all happy. You look at him now in a press conference; he's aged about 10 years in 6 months. He really has. I know we've all aged, but he's getting it the most.
He needs a skin routine, that's for sure.
Look at him and go, Jesus, you got to get out of there, boy.
But yeah, it shows what Spurs do to you, and it shows what big clubs do to you. Like I think he's not the first one though. That happened to Graham Potter. Graham Potter at Chelsea, he was probably respectful, or he was well respected, liked in the Premier League, and then he went to Chelsea, he got absolutely found out, and it tends to happen, I think, to these mid-table, lower table managers where they do get the big job because they want it. They want to test themselves out, but it's not meant for all of them, to be honest, like Dave mentioned before.
I would also argue, I think the media is being found out a little bit as well. You know, they gave all the credit to Thomas Frank and what happened at Brentford, and none to the owner. Didn't do any sort of research or looking into, you know, what he built there. This, you know, he's used basically the metrics that he's using and what that he made all his money from gambling on. You know, and applied it to the transfer window and stuff like that. And you know, it's working an absolute treat. It's the exact same model as Brighton, and you know, and look, you type in Thomas Frank on YouTube. The amount of access he gives journalists, Sky Sports, all these other companies, you know, around to what he's doing on a day-to-day basis. You know, he gives them, you know, information, insights and stuff like that. So I don't think he was judged fairly going into this job. I think he was given a bit of a free pass and built up to be something he's not, to be brutally honest with you. And I think he's been found out, but I also think the media's been found out a little bit. You know, I get that, you know, he gives them a lot more access to maybe what other managers do and stuff like that. But at the same time, you know, you can't just give them free passes and stuff like that and build them up to be something just because of that. You know, where really, you know, you don't ever hear, you know, the owner Brighton or Brentford ever really get the credit they deserve for the models that they've built and how sustainable it is and stuff. And when you look at when they notoriously let managers go, even their best players go, they still kick on, you know. And I think, you know, that's again, the fact that Vinay and Johan Lang, even though Johan Lang was at Brentford, didn't have that insight around the Thomas Frank point, was even more a damn indictment of that fraud anyway. But guys,
Sir Alex, what he must have done at that time, single-handedly running that whole club, rebuilding them teams at the highest pressure, at the highest level, and winning them trophies. And then you get people like this coming in and can't handle 6 months of a bit of pressure, and they're not expected to do anything. It's you've got to give them respect, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I'm going to jump in on that one because I disagree with you big time there.
okay.
I agree with what you said on Alex Ferguson. Absolutely fantastic. But there's a big difference between coming in as a manager and having the say on who you buy and the players you buy and the tactics.
Yeah, there is that to it. Yeah, I'll get that.
Frank doesn't have, none of our managers have had that for a long, long time, where they come in and they dictate the players that they want. That's the difference.
But no football club has that anymore, Soren. It's all changed. It's director football.
But that's what I think. Sometimes, you know, if you go out and say you get a Conte, you get a Nagelsmann, you get maybe a Poch even, you've got to give them this, you know, the power to, I mean, like Harry Redknapp in a sense, you know, if you give them the power to get the players they want, not, oh, this is a list of players we think will suit you, then it's a totally different ballgame. You know, we all sit here and blame Thomas Frank, but he's a head coach. He's not a manager. So he coaches what he's got. Now, yes, he might not be good enough, and I get all that, but there's a big difference between an Alex Ferguson and a Thomas Frank. And I'm not talking about how successful they are. I'm talking about the way they are allowed to run that club.
Yeah, but that still brings more pressure with it, though. That the hiring and the firing, all that is all on their shoulders in a way.
I mean, this will sound stupid. It actually is easier Because I mean, obviously
Probably.
the way I work, because I'm a manager, I am at a farm now where I have to answer to the boss. Whereas the previous one, I ran that farm with budgets and everything. And it was easier to run that than it is to do this, because you're always asking for something that you never get. Whereas before, you got it and you had to explain why you've got it. And as long as it worked out, it was okay. And that's the same with Alex Ferguson. He was allowed to eventually go and just basically do what he wanted to do. And he was successful at it. Whereas if you put Alex Ferguson, say, at Tottenham now, I bet he would not succeed under the regime that we run.
I disagree, because one thing Alex Ferguson done is he turned to the academy. It wasn't all just big money buys. You know, he turned the academy to build the nucleus of what he did at Man United. Thomas Frank had that opportunity, walked in here, refused to take that. You know, we had some talented youngsters. He's farmed them all out on loan, so he hasn't helped himself in that regard.
How many times did you go and break the British record or the transfer record?
Yeah, no, I get that. But in order to get them to that point, he built it using the academy and stuff like that. Largely.
I mean, it was lucky. It was lucky that it had those players, though.
Yeah, 100%. But you know, Thomas Frank has Mikey Moore, Fiskovich, players like that.
Right? He had his eye on them players, like with Beckham and all that. When Beckham went up and signed, John Terry was like 12, and he was in the car going up there, and it was too much to go. He had his eye on these players way down.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was invested in their parents, where they're from, like the whole part, everything about every one of them.
But the point I'm trying to make is that's why it's even more important to judge the manager on what he's getting out of the squad, because he's not dictating the transfer policy at Tottenham. He's not dictating what players walk in the door. You know, despite reports that come out, you listen to any manager in modern game now, they're all moaning because they're not getting what they're asking for, this, that, and the other. They're all head coaches. Every club is operating this way, and that's why it's even more important to judge him on what he's getting out of the current squad, because he doesn't have the power to go to the board and say, well, I need you to change 15 of these players, and I want this guy, and I want this guy, and I want this guy, because the club ain't going to do it. So that's why it's even more crucial to judge the guy on what he's currently doing and what he's getting out of it, rather than what we need to do for him. And that's the big thing that everybody misses right now. And Pochettino tried to tell us, you know, they changed his contract from a manager to a head coach to take his say out of, you know, transfers and everything else like that. But at the end of the day, these guys know what they're signing on for. He had no problem signing the contract and agreeing to this situation when he came in here. So he better not sit there and cry about it, you know, when he goes, well, it didn't get me what I wanted now, because you knew exactly what you were signing into. So that's why we have to judge these managers now, not on what they need, but on what they're currently getting out of this squad, because that's the way modern football is. Clubs are no longer shelling out massive money on managers, because if it doesn't go right 6 months down the line, they have to bring in an intern or bring someone else in. Then all of a sudden he wants to shit that squad out, bring in his own, and it's just not sustainable. And that's why it's so important for this football club at board level, at ownership level, to decide what way they want to play on the field. You apply your data model to that so that you're picking up the right players. Bring in them sort of players, and bring in a manager and a director of football that also see the football the same way as you do. What we're doing right now is we go to the director of football. How do you see football? That'll do. So he's bringing in players for that. Then you bring in a manager that just doesn't even see football the same way or play the same formation that this guy's building the squad for and everything else. And that's why we're up Sheets Creek right now. You know, It all starts from the ownership deciding what way they want to play and what way they want to be. But anyway.
Yeah. Just want to say 425 people in the house. Do smash the like button. We only have 137 and a half. So I'd like to think that at least half of you guys are enjoying the stream. So please, everybody, do smash it. Like Dave said before, it just helps the algorithm. Also helps us recommend us to the next time that you tune into YouTube. So we do appreciate it.
So, guys, I've got 3 conversations, and we've only got so long left, so I'll let you pick which one you want to go on to. I have one that we can speak around Papa Matasar, Saurus Rex, the AFCON champion. One we can speak about, our attack and play, what's wrong with it, and, who's at fault, squad or manager. Or we can talk about Xavi Simons.
Well, I would say the last two go together anyway, don't they? So maybe that one.
Yeah, okay. Me and Jack can talk about Saurus Rex if he's in the lineup on the watch.
Yeah.
So
is he in? Do you reckon he's in?
I would. Well, he's
We'll talk about
available,
it.
isn't he? He's available, and with the amount of injuries we have, he's
Got
probably
him,
damn
ain't he?
close. He's
Got
probably
him.
damn close. Look, so we'll talk about the attacking play then maybe, and we'll get on to Xavi. But Spurs centre-backs have been our biggest goal threats, this season. Romero, again, rescuing a point against Burnley. Van de Ven is also one that stepped up massively this season. It's a concern that our defenders are sort of carrying the attacking burden. But what does that say about Spurs' forward play under Thomas Frank? That we're sort of relying on moments rather than patterns of play at this sort of level. And is it sustainable? Because clearly it's not. But, I mean, what's at fault? Is it the talent at his disposal isn't good enough to execute it? Or is it just not being coached?
Right, I'll go then. All right. It's not being coached, and I'll tell you why. I'm no football expert in any means, but if the players weren't good enough to execute what he wanted them to do, you would see them trying it and it not coming off. We're not seeing them try it. So that's my theory on that. And when against Dortmund, wasn't it? They played with a bit of freedom. The players naturally found space, attacking, and look a bit better. You can just see, and the Burnley game the weekend, when Romero goes up front, he ain't being told to do that by Frank. He's going, listen, I'm not having this. I'm going up front. We've got a corner. I'm staying up here. See, yeah, I do. I do think that's on Romero.
Okay.
I really do, because you don't see Frank, you always see him. He's always doing that. He just doesn't look that way. And then you see, I think it was the Burnley game when Romero stayed up. I think one of the midfielders went back into centre-back. So I think that's as he's run past, he's gone, get back there and help me. I really don't think he's coached. And, now I think Frank, forget the injuries because they're all part and parcel, but he has had a lot. But if your coach got a squad of 25 and they're all being taught the same way, in the same class, at the same lesson, at the same thing, whether one's a different level than the other, they all know what way you want to play and what they should be doing. But they all look lost. They don't know whether one to go, two to stay. Yeah, and it just looks a shambles. And there is no signs of coaching in my eyes. I can't see it. And I was one of them that I wasn't, I was quite accepting for him coming because of his coaching side. And whatever the reason is, I don't know, but it's just gone. And I think he's just got into a panic and he's got himself in, and then the injuries come and he's so worried about not losing now, because if he can't win it, but you get a loss, but at least if he can get a point or something, it ain't as bad as losing. And I just really think he's in that point. And I've watched bits of the training videos. You see him doing that little circle and quickly. That doesn't happen on a football pitch. No one, they're just someone's crunching. You ain't got the time. And that's why I think with Europe, with the likes of Xavi and things like that, they do have that extra second in time. But in the Premier League, Frank only knows the Premier League. He doesn't know Europe. So he can't be teaching them what to do in Europe. He needs to be teaching them what to do in the Premier League. And that is, when you get the ball, one touch, pass. One touch, pass. If you have two touches, you're getting a fine. He's got to do something. But if he doesn't think that way and want them to do that, then they're not going to do it. Yeah. And I do put it all down to coaching and his mentality.
Okay. Jack, Soren?
So what you're saying is then the previous 2 seasons under Ange, where he was not coaching anybody but playing games on the training pitch, and they were scoring or creating more chances than under Frank, who's supposed to be a tactical genius and waves his hands about as a manager should do and shouts and kerfuffles and throws things about, isn't working to improve our players. Is that what you're saying?
No, because it's a different set of instructions.
No, sorry, that was being sarcastic there, man.
I know you are, but I'm just saying, it's when you've got one saying, just do everything, go forward, but try not to lose, then it's like, so Van de Ven and Romero up on the halfway line, it's like, shit, the ball's going over top, we've got to sprint back. Now, this time, we've got acres of space to play into, but no one's running forward and playing into the space. So forget the managers or it's just purely the mindset. Are we a going forward team or are we a staying back team? And that's the difference between Ange and him. The results are still the same. So somewhere in the middle is the perfect answer.
When you look at the question actually answers itself, because if you look at last season and the season before, even though we lost a lot of games, we created a lot of chances with our forward line. Whereas now our XG is probably as low as it's ever been, which means we're not creating chances, which means the coaching isn't to the same standard as what it was last season and the season before. Now, when we go back to the summer and we were all complaining Richie isn't good enough and Solanke, could be better and we need a striker. We got Moani in. And a lot of us sat here and we was quite pleased the fact we got Moani in. And we thought we'd score goals with him. And whether it's attitude, whether it's he doesn't want to be here, but I'd still say even if he didn't want to be here, should still be scoring. But something isn't clicking with that forward line. And you look at it and you think, well, we've supposedly got more coaches and more specialised coaches, and we've got this, that, and other compared to what we had under Ange and all this lot. And Ange couldn't coach, and Thomas Frank can coach, and he's got coaching teams in. Well, it just shows, in a sense, it's not down to the coaching necessarily. It's down to the player's mindset just as much as anything else, that it just, nothing's working up front. And it just doesn't make sense that we can have a team that could score goals over the last 2 seasons, but can't hit a barn door this season. And it's obviously, like you say, coaching thing in the sense that he's telling them to be more defensive than attacking. And it just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It's instructions.
And, you look at it and you think, well, as much as anybody wants to slate Thomas Frank off, he's not a bad manager. He is not a bad manager. And tactically, he's probably decent. And it just isn't working for him at Tottenham Hotspur. And I don't get it. It should be. It should be working because you've still got Richie. I mean, it's all right saying the forward line isn't as strong. Well, yes, it probably isn't now because we've got rid of Brennan Johnson as well. Sonny, everybody wanted rid of Sonny in the summer and last season because he'd gone past it. He wasn't good enough anymore. So why all of a sudden our forward line's weaker? I don't get it. You've got Moani and you've got Kudos in. You've got Solanke and Richie who were the same 2 forwards as we had last season. Yes, they're injured at the moment. I get it. But it shouldn't be any weaker. We should still, with those players we have got, be able to create and score chances.
But the thing is, like with Postecoglou, he didn't coach defending. He didn't bother coaching set pieces. He just coached attacking patterns of play. We created a lot. We played some good football. We couldn't finish teams off. Couldn't finish off a lot of the moves. This year under Thomas Frank, there's been no coaching in the forward regard. There's definitely been coaching around attacking set pieces,
and the opposite
set pieces, and the defense. You can see that, but there's been none in the forward line, and that is, I think,
but you could argue with that, Dave, that these players should, they are strikers. They should know how to score a goal.
No, I get what you're saying.
I get tactics and that.
Far back. They're sitting so far back in the pitch. They're being left to make it up. Like a lot of times we moan about the sideways and backwards passes. But if you've got a player that's on the ball, one of your 4 players is on the ball in his own half, like Xavi Simons is all the time, like our striker is all the time, like a lot of our wingers, and they look up and they've got no one to play it into, no one breaking their bollocks to overlap and all, it's being forced backwards. But that's where Frank then needs to instruct the players, work on it on the training pitch, get forward, break at speed on the counter-attack. There's none of that. Or at least, what avenue are we going to use to get to goal? There's been none of that. Players are just making it up as they go along. And that's why you're seeing all of the misplaced passes in the final third. Players that when they do make the run and it's not being found and stuff like that. That all comes into it because these players just left to make it up spontaneously on their own. Now, I get what you're saying. They should be good enough to bag a couple more individual, true moments of individual brilliance. But that's not enough over the course of a season to be able to sustain at this level. You have to coach attacking patterns of plays. Look at Guardiola at Man City, you know, how he redefines it all the time. It's clearly coached and stuff like that. There's other examples. Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, that is clear, direct way of playing. You know, under Thomas Frank, there is none beyond set pieces, long throw-ins, and the defense.
I would argue. Yeah, sorry, Dave. Yeah, you finished your point. I was gonna argue. I do think Frank is at this stage had enough time where maybe he hasn't coached any attacking play. I'm actually starting to believe he has. It's just not to what we require and what we expect. I think it is intentionally very sideways, very backwards, very safe. As he's pointed out in many of his tactical briefings with the media and stuff, he talks a lot about wanting to get crosses into the box, wanting to work it out wide to the wide areas and try to create chances from there. It's clear that he does not really want his teams to try to create chances through the middle of the park. It seems so often that you'll actually have a player pretty much wide open in the middle of the pitch, and we just don't play it into him because it's not the instructions for the team to play that way. I think he actually has been working for the most part in the last month or two, how to, build up, how to try to hurt teams, going forward. It's just the way he does it is exceptionally boring to watch and very pragmatic and very safe. Because if you think about it, Romero under the previous manager would consistently make those passes through the middle to get a move going. You'd see Bentancur's progressive passing numbers were night and day compared to what it is now under Thomas Frank. I actually do think the instructions have been laid out for the players. It's just that it's very safe and it's very sideways and backwards. And then even compare it to like when you watched Villa play against us, like Villa were like the total opposite to us. Remember, every single time they tried to play through the middle, they tried to make these little combinations, and then they would break through the middle of the park and hurt us from there. Whereas we were the total opposite. Every single time it was like, get it to the fullback gets it to the winger drives up the pitch, tries to cross it into the box. So it's clear that he is already at this point found a style of play that he thinks will work. It's just not working, and it's also exceptionally boring to watch at the end of the day.
The thing is with that, it's so basic. You need more at this level. You need more intricacy, better plans, better ideas. I'm not being funny, but I could go and roll that down out with Newbridge Rovers here, my local side. You know what I mean? That's something they would expect from me to roll out down there. You know, like at elite level, Premier League level, European level, you've got to coach a little bit beyond that. And that's where I think you're seeing, like, that's, to be honest with you, that's why I think you're seeing someone like Mwani checking out. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more players check out the longer this goes on, because it's so basic. And not only that, if you're going to instruct players to get the ball out wide and cross it in, then instruct your midfielders and other people to flood the box. Why are we putting it in there with just one guy in there? You know, that's all we ever do, cross, and it's the striker in there. It's so simple. Tell you Xavi Simons, even if he's not going to get on the end of something, be in a position that where the ball might break. Try and get a shot. Instruct the other winger to get in. Instruct one of your other CDMs to break forward and get into the box and provide another aerial presence. Like if you're going to instruct getting down the wing and crossing the ball, instruct players then to get in and follow on and get on the end of it.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I think the only time a ball's gone over the top and Xavi ran onto it and scored, I think that's the only one we've done that's like a ball centrally down the middle, into a bit of space. He ran on, he kicked that ball in. I think there was one Johnson, but it was more nearer the wing and he crossed it, but it went in. But it is more all to the wings. As Jack might be saying, that might be his vision and he maybe is coaching it. And because it's not to our liking, we're not seeing. But then he's not changing it. If you realise we're now, 20-odd games in, it's not working. I've got to try something different. There's a big gap in the middle of the pitch here. Why don't I just try for one game going centrally? There's no adaptability, is there?
But that's what we did to start with. The first 6-7 games, we were solid in midfield, and we went down the wings. Xavi on the left, Kudos on the right, and
we scored a lot of goals from pressing high, though, Saran. We scored a lot of goals pressing teams into mistakes where we only had one pass to make.
That midfield was Benson Kerr,
Yansar.
Yeah, and then we had Xavi on the left and Kudos on the right, and we created chances, we created goals, and we sat here on this panel and we were talking about Xavi, and I was saying he looks good on the left, and everyone's saying no, play him in the centre. He's moved him into the centre. He's broke up that middle line, and all of a sudden we don't look the team but he won't revert back. To me, you put Xavi back on the left and let him cut in like some used to do. And Kudos, obviously, I know he's injured, but, you know, do that. And this is the difference that now, when you've got a midfield that isn't controlling the game, you've lost. You look at all the best teams and they have got an absolute solid central midfield set. We haven't anymore. We've messed about with it. I mean, we've got Paulinho. He was the thing we needed. And then all of a sudden he starts benching him again. And he was just playing it. He was coming into form. That lad should be the first, after Kuti, obviously, should be the first name on the team sheet. And I don't know. It just, look, Thomas Frank is a good manager, but he's a level above where he needs to be. He is a I mean, at the moment, Tottenham are in the perfect position to have Thomas Frank as a manager.
Oh, he's dragged us down to his level for
sure.
We're in Thomas Frank's town.
He's good at that level, but we should have the level above it. And that's the problem. You know,
there's your man, Dave.
Just before we get on to the lineup, Logan THSE has sent in a super chat a super sticker, and he also says, "Love what you fellas have to say. It's always a good watch and a listen." I really do appreciate that, and hopefully everyone else out there is echoing them sentiments. We've got over 600 people watching. Please keep smashing that like button, guys. It really does help us out. You know, feel free to grab yourself a membership to the channel if you enjoy the regular content and the discussions we're having over here, or show your support like so many have done today. But we will get on to the lineups, Jacko.
Vicario looks like it's going to be Spence, Udogie at fullback with Danzo, Romero center backs. I see Archie Gray in the team and Paulinho together, and then Sarr, and it looks like it will be Kolomawani up top.
So 4-2-3-1.
Odebear on the right, Xavi on the left. So I think we actually got the lineup spot on, Dave. It's just we were expecting Solanke to start instead of Kolomawani, but we got it more or less right.
Yeah, I'm surprised he started Mawani over Solanke, to be honest with you. So we'll run through that again. I think it's a 4-2-3-1. It's Vicario in goals. Jed Spence at right back, Udogie at left back. Danzo will come in at right side of centre back with Romero moving over to the left side of centre back. João Paulinho and Gray as your two holders. Then you've got Sarr more or less as your sort of cam. And then you'll have Wilson Odebear off the right. Xavi Simons off the left, with Mawani up front. So guys, in the comments, let us know your thoughts on that lineup. Jack, are you purposely hiding the bench from us? Is it not worth seeing?
Yeah, try to zoom in for the old eyes. Kinski, Austin, Solanke, Scarlett, Olasesi, Rio Kirmatan, Hardy, Junai Byfield, Roswell, and then Ty Hall.
And that's not Tyrese Hall, by the way, everybody. No. And it's not even a relation of his, but we do have another Ty Hall in the academy. So good they had to do two players. But look, you know, back to the lineup. I suppose we'll get Soren and Martin's thoughts on it. We'll get their score predictions, and we'll end off. And then me and myself and Jack will gather ourselves and be back for the watch along, give you our thoughts. Soren, what's your thoughts on the lineup here, son?
I was so confident until I saw no goal Mawani starting. Do you know what? I have no words for that, Matt. I hope he goes out and he gets the hat trick tonight. Yeah, I hope he just comes out and I hope he's sat watching this now and thinking, I'm going to show that little prick what a prick he is, and I'm going to put this ball in the back of the net.
His tyre.
He's probably listening to you. It made him crash his car yesterday.
Probably, yeah. Look. The rest of the team, I mean, it basically picked itself. But for me, I would have had Solanke on and go for them couple of goals up as quick as we can, and then bring Mawani on. But I have no words for him.
Trying to get that midfield area back to the way you were speaking about it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I like the midfield if Xavi's going off the left and Odebear on the right. I like that. I understand. I mean, unless Gray's playing right back and Spence is going up on the left and Odebear's on the right, I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, you look at the bench and you think the only person we can really bring on to change anything is Solanke. So you've got to do it in the first 60 minutes basically. So that's why I would have started with Solanke and not Moani. But look, we'll see. Hopefully, Moani Frank's maybe looked at it and thought this team can concede, so Moani might actually be able to score a goal tonight. So let's hope, fingers crossed. And I'm going for a 2-0. No, 3-1. 3-1 tonight.
Colo. I hope he scores tonight. I really do.
I hope he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he lifts up his t-shirt and he says, "I love Soren" underneath.
Yeah, that'd be epic. That'd be absolutely epic. Just quickly, while we were streaming here today, guys, now look, take it with a pinch of salt. It'll probably be quashed by the time we wake up in the morning anyway. But the latest bit of transfer news is Tottenham have inquired about Leon Goretzka at Bayern Munich. Now, Jack knows he's a player that I have loved for a long, long time. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, and I'd love to see him come in here. But don't get too hyped up, because we'll probably wake up tomorrow and, there'll be some other reason. He'd be staying at Bayern or something like that. Anyway, on to you, Martin. What's your thoughts on the lineup, and give us a score prediction?
Well, I think it's got to be a 4-2-3-1. I can't, even within players, I can't see where we can do anything different. The most he could do is put Odebert left and Xavi right. I just can't see. It has to be Gray and Paulinho sitting in the middle. Do we really need the two sitting in there? Can Gray be pushed a little bit more forward so it's more of a 4-1-2 to give Gray and Sarr a bit more control in the midfield and just have Paulinho mopping up? Be a bit more aggressive. That's about as much as I can muster up to do anything different than what he's probably going to do. There is Solanke. He must fancy him against Man City the weekend. That can be the only thing. Kinski's on the bench. That ain't really going to affect his West Ham move, is it? So, I think it's apart from Solanke, it picks itself, doesn't it? He's got no other options there. I'd like to see us go 2 or 3-0 up for half time and give some of these up Byfield that, because I say Byfield, he's 17 or whatever he is. But seriously, he's a man. Have you seen the size of him? He's a unit. Right. So
Olasesi get a go, actually. They turned down a move to PSV Eindhoven for him.
But they did it last year. They come on. All 3 of them come on. All 3 of them got a goal. We never see them again. I don't like that. I just don't. If you're going to give them a go and they repay your faith, then drop them in here and have another go. Don't just go, "Here, boys, well done. You've all got a goal in Europe. Now go back and play on them other pitches. You're not coming here again." I didn't like that move last year. So if they come on and they do well, give them another go. Listen, if we're 2-1 down near the end of the game, none of us expect to put the kids on to do it. But if there's a chance, let them have a go. As I say, you know what I mean? Like Frankfurt are out. We should put them to bed by half time. I'm going to be quite confident tonight. And I'm going to go for a straight 3-0. 3-0.
3-0. Martin wants an early night tonight. I absolutely love that. But no, in all seriousness, look, it's not complicated. We got Man City coming up on the weekend. The aim should be to try and go and get this done in the first half, then let the likes of Olasesi, Byfield, players like that, Solanke, Scarlett, come on and relieve a few so that we can save some legs for the game on the weekend. But guys, that is it from myself, Jack, Soren, and Martin here. Well, I think you're enjoying these pre-match build-ups anyway. You keep coming back and the numbers keep getting better and better, with these guys on. So if you do enjoy it, make sure you do show your appreciation. Keep smashing that like button. Myself and Jack will be back in half an hour's time for the Night of Destiny, where we find out our fate. It's either playoff in the Champions League or into the next round. What will happen? Well, only time will tell. See you back here in half an hour's time. As always, I want to say a massive thank you to you guys at home as well, and people who have gone the extra mile today. We have Razzer in the house. We had Logan a couple of times as well. Really appreciate that, my man. We also have Dropkick Your Teacher, Tin Man in the building, Sugar Ray as well, Ledley's Knees, which is a great name. We also have Adam Horlock in the house. We also have Faz, Dermatron, Adrian Chia as well, Simon Coley, and the Big D. Thank you very, very much. Very, very kind of you all. Guys, go and get a can ready. Go and get a sandwich ready. And we'll see you very, very soon. Come on, you fucking
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Please.
Oh, nearly pressed the wrong button. Press leave studio
Nice job,
instead of
guys.
end stream. Thank you very